Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where we do have plenty of Barca news coming up today, a real range of topics as well. There's so much discussed today, including the very latest on the Camp Nou. When exactly are we going to return there? We're also going to be talking about the Ballon d'Or. We have a few more Lamine Yamal quotes to discuss. There's also debate over exactly where Barca should stand amongst the favourites for the Champions League this year. And we also have Lionel Messi discussed in today's video. It is all on the way. Get yourselves ready. And let's do this. And I do just want to say, guys, a very big thank you indeed for all of those who did get involved yesterday. Something a little bit different, a little bit fun here on the channel. I really do appreciate all the feedback, all the kind support that has been coming in. And by the way, there's actually more demand than I expected on that Real Madrid shirt. I mean, I didn't expect anybody to actually want it. I'm going to have to do a raffle or something to decide who gets it. I can't believe I'm saying that about a Madrid shirt, but yeah, stay tuned for that, those who are looking for it. But if we do kick off here today, but just running through some of the papers in Barcelona, let's have a look at some of the front covers. We haven't actually done this for a while on the channel. You're looking here at Sport. Joan Garcia is donning the front cover there, and it actually says a big change for him right now in his career and also in his life since signing for Barca. They talk about basically how his life has changed overnight. He's still, of course, in the same city as where he was when he was playing for Espanyol, but before, he said that basically he could walk through the city unnoticed. People wouldn't really recognise him. People certainly wouldn't be approaching him. He could just go about his life doing whatever he wanted to do in the city. That is not the case now. Now he is extremely recognisable, and that's only really going to be amplified. You're looking at before the break, his man of the match display against Rayo Vallecano. He has massively impressed me since arriving at Barca, Joan Garcia, because what you also can't forget with him, he is young in goalkeeping terms right here. He's only 24 years old. For a goalkeeper, that is very, very young indeed. He'd only played 67 games at first team level before we signed him here. So he is somebody quite young, quite inexperienced really in the grand scheme of things. But look at the way he's adapted. That is a sign of his quality, and not only his quality, but his belief, his confidence in himself. That's what you need as a goalkeeper. You've got to be confident. Even at times, you've got to be a bit arrogant. You've got to believe you are the man who's going to stop the goals. And so far, so good from Joan Garcia. Then let's have a look at Les Sportier, who go with Flick on the front cover there, and basically the challenge of managing the return of players from the international break. Because honestly, surprise, surprise here, this international break has been quite damaging to Barca here in terms of injuries, in terms of fatigue as well. They do mention in particular Frenkie de Jong, who came back early, of course, from the Dutch national team with a bit of a problem. He is still right now unable to train with the group as it stands, and the main priority with him is making sure that he is fully fit and ready for the Newcastle game. Not for Valencia on Sunday, but Newcastle next Thursday. That is the priority right now. But they also mentioned too Rafinha, who, of course, don't forget, guys, he went away with Brazil. Not only is that an incredibly long journey to take, it is demanding, it is tricky at times, but not only that, he had to play away at Bolivia. I mean, that is the worst place to go in terms of battling that really high altitude. Players genuinely struggle. That is why Bolivia have such an unbelievable home record. It really takes its toll on those visiting there. So Rafinha has got to come home now. He's got to come back from all of that long trip home and getting over playing in those kinds of circumstances. That is not going to be easy ahead of the weekend. But then we do have something a little bit more light here from Mundo Deportivo today. On their cover, they actually go with Max Verstappen. And I personally am a big Max fan. I was happy to see him here on the cover this morning. And he says he's a massive fan of Hansi Flick's Barca. He said, I love Flick's Barca. He likes the offensive approach. He said at times it can be a bit risky. And they actually told Max there in that interview, you've got to arrive one day. We know that he's a big Barca fan. He loves watching Barca. You've got to arrive in the paddock one day wearing a Barca shirt. And I think even more so, thinking ahead to 2026, Madrid will rejoin the F1 calendar. That would be a great place to do it. the Madrid Grand Prix, why not arrive in a Barca shirt, Max? But if we do move back here to some more serious issues at hand for Barca, because as we know, this Sunday against Valencia in La Liga, we will not be returning to the Spotify Camp Nou. We will have to play this game at Estadio Johan Cruyff with a massively reduced capacity. It is going to be there around 6,000 fans for our first home game of the season in the league. It's not ideal. But of course now the question is, well, okay, if this game isn't possible, if we couldn't return then, when is it going to happen? What date are we going to be able to come back to our stadium? Now, the next home game is against Getafe on September the 21st. Now, Elena Fort, who is the club's vice president and also the spokesperson of the club, she said right after the announcement that we would play at Estadio Johan Cruyff, she then went to say, I can't really guarantee that we will play against Getafe at the Camp Nou. So she is saying right now, look, we're not going to guarantee anything. We are not going to promise anything at this point. And I think the club, they are very scared now to put a concrete date on it. They are very scared here, given how many delays there have been, given how many announcements we've had, how many games we penciled in, and then it's all been pushed back. The club don't want to make that mistake again. Now, there's going to be no press conference at all from Joan Laporta until the club are absolutely sure. He is not going to come out, he's not going to talk about it in detail until the club know they have a fully confirmed date. All he said at this point is, it's going to be as soon as possible. We are working hard, we're excited to return, but we just don't know right now. And the only clue, really, that we as Barca fans have is actually an invitation that has gone the way of Hezbollah. Now, those are words that I didn't expect to use on the channel, but here we are. We're in strange times, and this is what is happening right now. Barca have invited Hezbollah to the match against Real Sociedad at the Spotify Camp Nou on September the 28th. And that will be our third home game of the season. And apparently there are a lot of influences there who are being lined up by the club surrounding that particular match against Real Sociedad. So could it be that we are lining up that game? Could that be the game that Barca are targeting, the date that they are targeting, September the 28th, for the big return? We will have to wait and see. I wouldn't say right now that it's a guarantee just because Hezbollah has gotten a letter from the club. You know, Barca may send out these invitations. Barca may be planning something special. But as we've seen before, even that can go back. Even then, things can be delayed. So there's no concrete evidence right now that that is absolutely going to be the date. But that would be good news if it is, because that would then mean also that Barca could play PSG at home in the Champions League. That will be only days after that game. And that would also then mean if we can play that PSG game at home, we can then play all of the league phase at the Spotify Camp Nou. And we don't need to be talking about Montjuic. We don't need to be talking about Estadio Johan Cruyff. Everything would be taken care of. But we are still waiting for actual confirmation. But of course, guys, ahead of this weekend and off the back of those delays, naturally there has been some criticism of Joan Laporta, both in the Catalan media and not only in the media here, but also certainly from sections of the Barcelona fan base. There has been a bit of disappointment about these delays, about the fact here that we're not getting great communication from the club, but there's also been disappointment and I would say sort of anger about ticket prices. You know, in general, I would say Barca's are on the high side. We all know that. But certainly ahead of this weekend against Valencia, because tickets are in such limited supply with only that 6,000 capacity, I mean, that has led to some massive prices here. Certainly on the VIP side, they are skyrocketing right now. And people are thinking that Laporta, obviously overseeing all of this, there is a bit of frustration, there is an anger about these prices, things going up and up and up. But unfortunately, guys, as we've spoken about many times here on the channel with different things, it's kind of in line with everything. It's kind of in line here with most sporting events these days. Unfortunately, the prices are high. And the problem again will be, well, people will pay it. You know, you can guarantee there's going to be 6,000 fans there. People are going to be desperate to watch Barca on Sunday, regardless of those prices, which are certainly very high, even by Barca standards. But speaking indeed then about Joan Laporta, I think it's interesting to also bear in mind that things are going to ramp up in the media over the next few months. Of course, don't forget that in the coming summer, in 2026, we will have a presidential election again run at the club. And I think what's interesting right now is that you're already seeing, for example, Victor Font, he's starting to speak a lot more on the issues that we're seeing at the club. He's starting to become more and more vocal in the media. And what we are hearing now, and I think it's very interesting to talk about this, that Lionel Messi could be involved in some capacity in the elections this summer. Now, that was a big report that came out in the media, and admittedly, a lot of people thought, first of all, well, is Messi running? Is he actually going to be involved as a candidate for the presidency at Barca? But no. It's not that. He is not running as a presidential candidate. But what is actually being rumoured here is that Messi could align with a candidate. He could actually pledge his support there to somebody who is running for the presidency. And of course, what has to be noted here is that would not be Laporta. We know that Messi and Laporta still do not see eye to eye, far from it there, and it has now been reported that maybe Messi could support another candidate, that he could help them in the coming elections. Apparently Messi has already been approached by several people ahead of next summer. Now, right now we don't know if Messi will actually do this, and I would like to think there, and I'm sure that he would have the club's best interests at heart. He's not just going to attach himself to any random person, anybody that just approaches him for some support. He's going to take everything into consideration. Messi will know how much of an influence he has. He will probably feel as though he had quite an influence on the last election, of course, when he did place a lot of trust in Joan Laporta, when, of course, all the renewal talks were going on. But, of course, we don't have time to get into all of that. We've spoken about it many times before. But I think it's interesting here. Do you think that Messi will get involved? Do you think here that Messi will attach himself to somebody? Of course, we don't know who all of the candidates are going to be yet. We know that Laporta is very likely to run again. What do you envisage happening by next summer? But I would also like to talk right here today, guys, about the UEFA Champions League. And I want to talk about some predictions, about some early sort of estimations on who the favourite might be for this year's title. And I want to use here some data that has emerged from Opta's supercomputer. You often hear sort of things like this where a supercomputer predicts who is going to win the Champions League this season. And well, they have gone overwhelmingly here for Liverpool as the Champions League winners. And that is interesting, because Arsenal are also there, right up there. PSG, the reigning champions, are in third, Man City in fourth, and Barcelona right now, according to Opta's supercomputer, they are fifth favourites for the Champions League with an 8.4% chance of winning, according to Opta. Now, what do you make of those sort of early predictions there, early estimations on the team's chances of winning the title? I mean, personally for me, guys, I think Barca's start of the season has been a bit sketchy. I think we've got a lot to prove here. I think we have a lot to improve upon if we are to get back to where we did last season, which of course was the semi-finals. We want to go one better. We should have been in the final last season. We messed it up a bit for ourselves. We want to be back there, but we are going to have to improve a lot. And there is time to do that. There's plenty of time. We're early in the campaign. There's lots still to play for here. I think it's interesting to see Arsenal that high. I mean, I see a lot of things about Arsenal. I see people thinking that they will win the Premier League this season. I see people thinking they'll win the Champions League. I mean, I still haven't quite seen enough from them, I guess, to sort of justify them being second only to Liverpool in terms of the title. PSG, they're strong. They're just as strong as they were last season there. They were excellent under Luis Enrique. I'd expect more of the same from them. And I think Man City being above Barca, I mean, you'd think that because of Pep, because of the Man City factor. They've been so strong over many years, of course. But at the same time, they really struggled last season. They haven't exactly set the world alight early on in this campaign. I don't even know if they should be ahead of Barca at this point either. I think Real Madrid, in all honesty, are too far down. Even as a Barcelona fan here, I would say that Real Madrid probably deserve more of a chance in the Champions League than that, simply because of their history in this competition, the way they just sort of happen to get across the line. So I think Real probably would be higher up than that, and I don't know if I would also give Chelsea a 7% chance either. Yes, they won the Club World Cup, but I'm just not convinced here that they are ready to go deep into the Champions League. But what do you think, guys? Where should Barca rank in terms of the Champions League favourites? Should we be among the top 2, the top 3, the top 4, the top 5? Or, are you not convinced at this point that we should be that high up? I would like to know your opinions down below. And speaking here about opinions and speaking about predictions, we must now move on to talk about the Ballon d'Or, because we now know that it will be officially confirmed and announced in the ceremony on September the 23rd. We do not have long now to wait until that is happening. And the big question Is Lamine Yamal going to win it? Has he done enough? Has he actually gone and done it at the age that he's at? It would be extraordinary. It would be absolutely unbelievable if he was to win this award, and he's right there. He is right in the running right now. And according to Yamal, I thought it was interesting that he came out and said, "I've told all my friends that I don't dream of winning one Ballon d'Or. I dream of winning many." You know, he's not just setting his sights on this one, whether he is or whether he isn't going to win it. He is targeting multiple Ballon d'Ors in his career. And he then went on to say, quite honestly, and again, in a confident manner, he said, "I think I'm a player who has the ability to win it. And if I don't win it this year, it's because I haven't done things right or because I haven't wanted to." But he said, "I dream of winning the Ballon d'Or many times. And when the day comes, I'll be very, very happy." So again, you do feel the confidence, the belief in Yamal's own ability, the fact that he is going to get there one day, whether it's this year, whether it's not. You know, he knows there's still more for him to achieve in the game. He's spoken about that before. He's still got so many more objectives and ambitions in the game that he wants to improve, that he wants to achieve, of course, as the years go on. But do you think that he's done enough this time around? We know, of course, that he's up against a player we also know pretty well. I mean, we don't know the version of him that we saw last season, but Dembele, he is right there in the running. It does look as though it's going to be between Yamal and between Ousmane Dembele. Dembele, of course, has the luxury of winning the Champions League. That will, of course, work in his favour. But individually, let's not forget here, this is how the Ballon d'Or must be judged, on individual performance, not based upon how your team does, how the team's success is. It is very much an individual award. And do you think that on September the 23rd, Lamine Yamal will win the Ballon d'Or? Do let me know, guys, in the comments down below. We will be talking more about that as it gets closer. And let me know as well on everything that we have discussed in today's video. It has been a pretty wide-ranging one. Lots of topics we have covered here today. And I will see you soon as we start to build up now to Barca versus Valencia on Sunday. I will see you soon for all of that. Thank you for the great support. But until next time, as always, Veshka. El Barça.